serve as the board chair for the CoSN National Organization, which is why Bill invited me to be here. I'm a former Ohio teacher, former tech director in the state of Ohio. I currently reside in Texas. We got relocated with my husband's job. So been a while, but I get to go back to Ohio all the time, which is great.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Stacy. As we talk today, really want to, again, talk about having a conversation. Stacy and I are just going to walk through some things here. And please ask questions, use the chat. Both of us will keep an eye on that. We're going to talk a little bit about CoSN and ETLA. We're going to do a little membership overview, tools and resources, and Q&A. Give you time for that this afternoon. So as you think of items that we lean into and you may not know about, throw a question in the chat. We'll take a deeper dive. Very fortunate Stacy's role with CoSN as the chair. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And so you have an opportunity to really ask the chair about some things here this afternoon. One of the items that I wanted to have you, some of you may or may not know Stacy as well as I do. I've known Stacy Stacy, we've known each other probably since 2008.
Since you started Learn 21, Bill.
Yeah, so way back when. And so
you had hair then, if I remember.
Yeah, I did. I had more than I do today. So thanks for calling that out. And so what I wanted, Stacy, just kind of give a little bit of overview. I know you did a moment ago, but tell a little bit about your beginnings in teaching and learning and where you were and where you went with our interaction with CoSN and stuff.
Yeah. So actually, I started out with an undergraduate in business. I thought I wanted to be in business, and that was what was going to make me happy. And it turns out I didn't like it very much. So I had kids and decided to stay home with them for a while. And then we moved to Ohio when they were in kindergarten and second grade, and they were in school full time, and I was home with nothing to do. And so my husband's like, want to go back to work? And I did, back in the business industry. And I did it for about a year and a half. And I just came home and told my husband, I'm like, you know what? I'm not happy. And it doesn't bring me joy. And I don't want to do it. And I know a lot of people go to work and don't enjoy what they do, and more power to them. But I struggled with that quite a bit. And so he's like, what do you like doing? And I was like, honestly, I just love volunteering at the kids' school. And it doesn't matter if I'm working with our kids or somebody else's kids. At the end of the day, I just feel like a decent human being. And he's like, what the heck? Go back and get your teaching license. So I went to Ashland University, went through their Bachelor's Plus program, got my teaching license. I taught math in a math and computer science at a parochial school downtown Cleveland the first year, and then I moved into Medina City Schools, where I taught gifted education for 2 years until we had a levy fail. So I'm very familiar with levies and budget situations and things in Ohio. As a result, the entire gifted program was eliminated. I was hired that same summer in Brunswick City Schools, which is also in Medina County. So instead of driving 2 miles for work, I'm now driving, 8 miles for work. And again, as a gifted intervention specialist, teaching at the middle school and elementary school level. But the communities were very different, but budgets were very different. Brunswick supported education a lot more than the Medina community did at that time. And so I had my gifted coordinators like, we've got money. What do you want to do? And I was like, oh, well, how about a classroom set of laptop computers, maybe some graphing calculators in the Navigator system, because I taught the accelerated math. And then what about a classroom set of iPod touches? And she emailed me back and said, done. She like literally bought me everything on my list. So I spent that entire summer trying to figure out, what do I do with all this stuff? I didn't learn any of teaching with any of these things in my pre-service program at Ashland. And I didn't want to waste the money that the district had spent on these things. And so she gave me the freedom to completely redo my entire curriculum, to use these tools and devices in the class. I became the first teacher in the state of Ohio to teach with a classroom set of iPod touches. And it just transformed how kids came into the classroom. It didn't change the curriculum, it didn't change the standards, but it transformed how they were able to interact with those things, the feedback, the differentiation, the excitement, personalization. And within a couple of months, they cut my schedule back so that I was only teaching half day, and the rest of the time I was going around the other schools in the district trying to help them do similar programs as we bought more iPods across the district. Got invited several times to go speak at different conferences down at the Department of Education. And then happened to go pick my son up from school, who was still at Medina County Schools, or because we didn't move, Medina City Schools, and ran into my former principal, great guy, Craig Comar, amazing person. He is now the tech person at Medina, and ran into our superintendent. And they said, "Hey, what about coming back to work at Medina?" And I was like, I've literally only lost one job in my life, and it was here at Medina, and it's not because I did a bad job. And so they said, what if we made you the tech director? And I was like, okay. And so I interviewed, they posted the position, I interviewed, I did get the job. But I got my job as a tech director because I could teach from the classroom set of iPod touches, not because I could wire a network. Thank goodness we never opened a new building. I know Bill has a ton of experience opening new buildings in Sycamore and all the things that have to go in there. But they really wanted to focus on the educational use of technology and move away from people that were running networks making a lot of those decisions. And so had a great team of people that did that kind of stuff. Eventually ended up leaving Medina. This is probably the longer version than you want it, Bill. Eventually ended up leaving Medina. Everybody's like, she's going to talk for 45 minutes. I won't. And working with Evergreen Education Group and then on my own as a consultant, helping schools and districts across the US integrate digital learning. I started a blended learning consortium in the Bay Area. I did consulting on blended learning in Jewish day schools in New Jersey, small rural schools in South Georgia. And then one of the schools, Davidson Academy, which is a public school for profoundly gifted students in Reno, Nevada, hired me to design a fully online version for them. This was before COVID, so we designed a brand new model of online learning. I'm really, really proud of that. It was not even a school when they hired me. It was just a philanthropist had some money and wanted to make a reality and gave me carte blanche to do all of that. And now it's listed as one of the 5 best schools in the US by US News and World Report. So it's kind of cool to know that something that didn't exist that you designed got to that level. And then after working with Davidson for about 7 years, I went from being the person they hired to design and do all that work to being a principal because now it's a full-on school and there are kids and things are working. And so I was pretty sure that I never really wanted to be a principal. And once I got into that role, I was reaffirmed that I did not want to be a principal. So if there are any principals or building level folks at that level here on the call, I respect your work madly. It does not bring me joy. So had been involved with Learn 21 off and on all through my entire career and was sitting on the board when we decided to post the chief academic officer position and then applied for that and got it. I will add the number one question I get when I share that kind of story is why did I pick the iPod Touch to teach with back then? It's pretty simple. The iPad had yet to be invented. So that's how old I am. So
That's, yeah. I mean, Stacy, I know you said, well, it's more than we thought you want to share with us, but I think it's great about our journeys. I think it's important for us to kind of all on this call to talk about our journeys, where we started, where we're from, our passions, and how you get there and how things intersect. And along the way, we were working together through Learn 21. And Stacy, I was thinking about the CoSN piece and the passion about helping others. And even I also learned something about you, give you money and kind of let you go and do your thing. You had a couple opportunities to do that along the way. But CoSN, big idea. What attracted you to CoSN along the way when we were always talking about CoSN? And we'll talk about that in here in a minute as well about our chapter and such. But if you to say a few words about your role now with CoSN as the chair, even though you're obviously your full-time Learn 21, but also what really attracted you to CoSN?
yeah, so when I was first a tech director in Medina, I joined ISTE. Like that was all I knew about. And I didn't even know back then that CoSN existed, to be honest with you. And I found CoSN when I was at Davidson Academy Online. I had just hired a new online technology manager. It's a position that I could have very easily done, but I can't do every job when you're doing those kind of things and really needed he was a younger guy. I knew he was the right person, but he needed some skills building and found CoSN then, sent him to the CoSN Early Career Academy, which was life-changing for him. We joined CoSN and I realized like how many resources they have for cybersecurity, how many resources they have for or superintendents that need to hire a CTO but don't know everything that a CTO does, all of the work that they do, joined a couple of committees And it was the first time with any professional organization. And I've been a PLN leader and a SIG leader at ISTE before. I love ISTE. I'm still a community leader with ISTE today. But it was the first time that when I went to committee meetings, it was literally people from across the US that cared about ed tech and leadership as much as I did, that were really trying to problem solve and come up with resources and things that we could produce and help our fellow ed tech leaders. And so I really felt like I found my people. Like it's, and I go to ISTE every year. I'll go to ISTE again in Orlando. I spoke last year. Again, but there's 15,000 people there. I go to CoSN, there's 1,500 or 2,000 people there. And it feels like home, and we support the big work that we're doing. I do a lot of presentations now as the CoSN board chair, and I'll stand up on a keynote stage and I'll, introduce myself and I'll say, how many of you know about CoSN? And if it's not, like I recently talked a couple months ago at the AETC conference in Alabama, which is the state EdTech conference. So it's Alabama's version of OETC. So it's not a CoSN chapter conference. And so I stood up and I'm like, how many of you know about CoSN? And I get a small number of hands, not the whole room. I'm like, how many of you know about ISTE? And, a ton of hands go up. And I said, the way that I think about it is if you think about an iceberg, ISTE is that top of the iceberg. It's beautiful. It's awe-inspiring. It's the tech in the classroom that makes kids go ooh and ah. It's that iPad touch, or iPod, 15 years ago. And it's exciting. And then CoSN is that bottom of the iceberg. And not that have to be hidden, but it's all the things that it takes to make that ed tech at the top stay afloat to be safe. So cybersecurity, interoperability, all of those things. And you don't see them because when they're working right, you should be able to ooh and ah at the top of that iceberg. And so I'd never joined CoSN to be a board member. I didn't join CoSN to be a board chair. I just ended up in these positions, and it really was because it's such a good organization to be a part of, and the work that we do to support things.
No, that's good. I appreciate you. I know it's a little bit for everybody on the call, but I think it's important to have this context of the work you've been doing and the work we've been doing and the value of CoSN. We're going to lean into it. So let's just jump in and run through this, folks. Ask questions, please interrupt. We wanted to make sure you have an understanding. And Stacy, I think you and I are just going to bounce back and forth in these slides and talk to people about it. We want to have a conversation. Just to give you a little perspective, when we started the CoSN chapter, it was about 15 schools that we gathered together and said, just like you, Stacy, I brought them together and said, hey, we really need to look at doing this work. Actually, Kevin at Learn 21 said to me, why would we do such a thing? This is not really in our wheelhouse. I'm like, it really is. We need to gather ed tech leaders together. And CoSN is just like you said, Stacy. I feel like I've met my people. And I hope those of you on the call will get a better understanding, or you already know that today, about meeting your people. But I think what's important is in 27 is when we started, there wasn't this much blue across the country. If I can say this example that you're seeing on the screen. And I think you told me, Stacy, who just added here just recently?
We just added Nebraska as a state chapter. I'm sorry, not Nebraska, North Dakota, North Dakota.
North Dakota.
And I'm going to be keynoting their conference in October. So I get to go to Bismarck, North Dakota this year. I never had that on my life's bingo card. So there I go.
There you go. Yeah. And yes, there are a few other states that don't have chapters, but what I wanted to share with everybody on this call is that there is a lot of states. Obviously, the majority of states have CoSN chapters now, speaking the same language, talking about this. We'll talk about the tools here in a moment, but I'm going to move on to this next piece of a little bit about where we are and where we've grown even in CoSN. When we started with these 15 districts, and that's what it took to grow a chapter. And by the way, you needed to be a nonprofit. So we put the chapter work under Learn 21 because Learn 21 was a nonprofit. So it was easy to put it underneath there. Since then, we've changed the name of our work, and Stacy leading that work. And it's called an ETLA, or EdTech Leaders Alliance. So I wanted to give some of you on the call some context of where we've been and where we are today. And I put Stacy over there about over 200 districts. I think we're somewhere in the 200 range of CoSN members now in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, we're well over that. And I will add, The CoSN conference in 2026 is in April, and it's going to be in Chicago, Illinois. And so I am actually already reached out to the chapter leaders in Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin, where I have some good connections. And we have just started a community on the CoSN member platform for the Midwest states. And we're going to start collaborating there to come up with some social events where we can get together as Midwestern states at that conference and help get to know each other that are in the same places as us. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I see you have a question, Joe. Go ahead. Come off mic if you would, please. Or maybe that was, and maybe you raised your hand incorrectly. I don't know. I'm just trying to
okay, yeah,
keep.
sorry,
Yeah,
get
no, no problem.
it.
That's all good. All right. So that's just a little bit of our growth and what we've done. And what we did this year is we really pulled it together to even increase our membership opportunity and our presence. And we actually approached CoSN along a statewide membership opportunity. And that's really what's helped us grow this. So we're going to look at what's the advantage of being a member and why it's so important. And I hope you walk out the door today with what I found when I first saw this was the resources that you alluded to earlier, Stacy, the availability of the resource, but also having a community of folks. Now I'm going to say, and it's I understand it. Not everybody can get to the CoSN conference in Chicago, but I think what you need to look at is that CoSN conference moves around every year. I think Stacy, I think they try to go west, central, and then east coast, if I remember that correctly.
I can
Uh,
actually spill some dirt. So it's
okay,
in Chicago this year. It will be in Miami after that. Then it will be, I believe, back in Seattle and then Denver, but I might have Seattle and Denver mixed up. So Chicago's as
okay.
close as it's going to get for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and we've had it in Washington D.C. in the past. We've had it in Nashville one year. So my thought is, while you may say to yourself, "I can't get to that conference this year," think about putting aside some money in the next, one something in the next 3 years that you can get to it once, even if you attend it once every couple of years or once every three. It's a great opportunity. But let me go on and move forward with a little bit more of what we want to talk about today. We want to lean in and just touch on these. We're not going to be able to cover all of these in the time we have today, but I want to make sure you walk out the door and have an understanding what's available to you on two levels. And Stacey, I think we want to talk a little bit about EdTech Leaders Alliance and what we're doing in that level, and we also want to talk what's available to you folks on the national level and what's available to you if you're a member, if you're an ETLA district member, you are a member of CoSN. And we want to make sure you know that walking out the door today that all that is working and in play. I'll let Stacy talk a little bit more about that. But there are, and we're kicking these off. In fact, did an email go out yesterday, perhaps, Stacy, about volunteers as well, and
Tuesday.
perhaps or earlier in the week? Thank you.
Yeah. And
And so,
Bill, I just put our edtechleadersalliance.org website in the chat. If you do go to that website, you will be able to see our call for volunteers. So for some reason you didn't get my email on Tuesday about the call for volunteers, there's a link right on the homepage of our website for you.
great, great. Thank you for doing that. And so, with this, I just want to, one of the first things we did when we started in 2017 and founded this chapter for Ohio is the first thing we did was mentorship. And the second thing we did was CEDL. I want to talk just about those two pieces of why we as a state lead into that. We immediately, I remember there was about three of us who would go around talking about mentorship and how important it is. I'll pause on that. I see Amy, you've got your hand up. If you have a question, please do come off mic. Or maybe you bumped it as well. Okay. Just jump in and ask if, even if I'm speaking. All right. What we
So,
have,
I'll go,
go
Amy.
ahead. Yes.
so yeah,
Yeah, go
Bill.
ahead.
So if we did not get that email, is there a email list that we need to make sure that we're on? Because I did not receive that.
Amy, I'm gonna double check my email list right now. So it went to the same distribution list that we send the Vibe, which is our ETLA monthly newsletter.
Okay,
So
I do
let
get
me,
that. So
okay, yeah, let me check. And if not, I can get you added.
would
Thank
it
you.
have come from you or?
It would have come from me, but through Constant Contact. But it should have had my name as the sender, not Constant Contact.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Amy.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. So just a little bit about some of these items that are available to you. I know that the mentorship, the reason why we actually started that right out of the bat is we knew and saw, and I didn't put any of the statistics in here, that you have um, a lack of CTOs coming into the field. And this has been known for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so we really worked at how do we help in this area of pairing up current CTOs or tech directors or tech coordinators with new CTOs, tech directors, coordinators. And we're still doing the mentorship program. It's been very successful in the sense that we pair you up. If you're a current CTO and got some experience and would like to be part of that, you can reach out to me. I think Kim's on this call. I don't know, I'm not going to call you out, Kim, but I know that the mentorship program is going to start and info will be coming out soon. Thank you. No
And it's on
pressure.
the volunteer forms. So
Yes, and it's on the volunteer form. Thank you, Stacy. So that is also, these are all on the volunteer form, some of these that we're talking about. A great program, great opportunity for you to give back and lean in. And quite frankly, you learn a lot. As you know, when you're teaching or you're coaching, you're also learning a lot yourself from others. So it's a great two-way opportunity. I will tell you on a national level, CoSN has what you referred to earlier, Stacy, uh, the career opportunity that you can join the academy. It's called, and it's a mentorship program across the entire United States. In fact, it's worldwide. I actually had a mentee that was from Peru last year who joined. So there's that opportunity as well happening within a national level. The SEAL program, the Certified Educational Technology Leader, our cohort, I believe Mike is starting that cohort in October at the conference, if I'm thinking correctly. Is that right?
yes, and there are currently over 70 people signed up for the cohort. I'll also throw out, because of Mike's cohort, more 10% of all CETLs in the US come from Ohio.
Yeah.
And I was on a board meeting yesterday, Arizona, Texas, I know South Carolina, there's a couple other states that are doing the Mike model. That's what they call it. Actually, for those of you that don't know, Mike Doherty was the 2024 CoSN Volunteer of the Year because of all the work that he's done in the SEAL program. But those other states are picking up, and Mike actually kicks off their meetings for them and does it. And so CoSN's really endorsing the Mike model, is what they call it. But we have over 70 signed up this fall, and 10% of all CETLs are in Ohio, which is pretty cool when you realize how small Ohio is compared to Texas or some of these other states on the map. So.
And we're going to connect some of these dots when we talk about the framework of essential skills, but the CETL exam kind of oversees, looks at the framework of essential skills, Certified Educational Technology Leadership exam. Great opportunity, and we'll talk more about it as we go through this. But this is just some of the work that's going on, and it's available to you as a member as well to get in the cohort. There is not a cost for the cohort as a member. And then you also have the cybersecurity and trusted learning environment, or what we call the TLE. Just some other committee work that is happening here in Ohio and also on a national level, the trusted learning environment. So definitely ask questions along the way if you want a little more information about these items. There's so much happening within Ohio and at the national level in CoSN. Obviously, if you haven't seen any of these or you're missing some of these, just coming from us, we've got our webinars that we're doing, our newsletter, podcasts, our group that's part of our advocacy group, but I didn't put it in here, unfortunately. I forgot all about it. I didn't do that on purpose. But the advocacy group is actually have managing the podcast and the conference as well. We actually have an advocacy committee. You'll see that in your email form that came out for Amy. I know that Stacy just put it in the chat for you as well, just an FYI. And then there's conferences and networking opportunities available to you. I want to just give you all of the CoSN committees that are available I took this off of a slide that I know you do this work when you present to others, Stacy, about all things CoSN. Anything that you wanted to call out on these committees? I actually am part of the Student Data Privacy Committee as well, doing some of that work.
Yeah, I'm on the membership committee and the emerging technologies committee, and I will say in the AI committee. CoSN committees they're like work groups. Don't think of it as very few have I ever been to. You go to a meeting, you're like, this meeting could have been an email. That's not it. They're doing things and they're working together and you're making connections. And the being involved in at least one committee is such a great way to meet people outside of, your local area and get your mind really expanded and help others. So it's the CoSN committees is what matter to me and why I ended up getting more involved. And we do look for our call for board members is out right now. And when somebody submits an application to be a board member, one of the things they look for is, are they involved in committees? Are they, making a difference kind of thing? But it is a really good opportunity. It's a very heavy member driven organization. So it's not a top
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, and remind me, Stacy, I hope we get to this while we're talking to the folks this afternoon, is to talk about the new CoSN network. Maybe we can even log in and show a little screenshot of that. I'm pretty excited. I was in it the other day. They've actually upgraded their member area. And folks on the call, if you're a member, ETLA member, you're obvious district member, you're a CoSN member, and you have access to that. It's a great place to ask questions and network with others behind the scenes as well. So let me just talk a little bit about things that I like a lot, and Stacy, jump in here, please. But this piece, if anything, for those folks on the call, the CoSN has a framework of essential skills, these three areas of the leadership and vision, understanding the educational environment, and managing technology and support resources. Important piece for you. If you haven't gone to the website and jumped in to look at the framework of essential skills and what's unpacks in each one of these areas. It looks at it as what we should be as EdTech leaders be focusing on in our jobs and what those essential skills are. And sometimes you may be in a district that your supervisor or the person you report to doesn't really have a great understanding of the work you do or the skills that you have. The framework of essential skills really calls all of that out for CTOs. Any other, I don't know, follow-up thoughts to that, Stacy, as we talk about these tools that are available from CoSN?
Yeah, this framework is the foundation of the CETL exam, which is so knowing it helps on the CETL. But to me, the power of this framework is opening up that dialogue with your superintendent, your supervisor to say, these are the things that I do, because so many times they don't know what you do, and it makes it hard for them to support you, to understand when you're like, I need this kind of money for a firewall, or I need to do this kind of phishing test, or I need these types of resources to keep it safe. Because what we do, again, is not always that visible. So this having conversations about these skills and being able to say, hey, this is how I demonstrated these different skills in my job over the last month since we've met or whatever is really important. I will say another thing that ETLA does, this is not a CoSN thing, this is an ETLA thing, but we do, all of our districts, we allow the superintendent to come to our conference in October for completely free. It's a non-transferable free ticket for your superintendent. They do have to register. There's a code. I'll put it in the chat. But we do that so that the superintendent sees what you're doing, goes to some of the sessions with you, understands the work that you're doing, and so that you can start to get that relationship and get the support that you need when you go to ask for money or you go to ask for resources. So we do try to help facilitate that conversation. CoSN National does not give supers a free registration, just ETLA does. But if you can get your super to come for half a day, do it. Like I'll put the code in. You have to be an ETLA member. You probably, if you're here, you probably are.
Important piece. I was one of the hardest things sometimes I felt is, and I felt like I was proficient and knew what all the things I were doing, but then having to defend that and talk about it and help my superintendent, this document is really a great document, as you shared too. So other pieces that you may not be aware of, just want to kind of pass by some of these that are available to you. And this helps make the case. These documents, and that's what the supporting organization does, it supports one another's of helping make the case of the work we need to do and how we need the funds to do it and how we need the resources, even in a team, to do it and what it looks like out there. I mean, sometimes you're like, how do I make the case? There are resources available to you to do that. And here's two of them that I wanted just to call out for you. It's a survey. I think this is an important survey for us as individuals of what's happening with from a national perspective with EdTech across our landscape, obviously, in the challenges. But I like what the second paragraph there on the left about the EdTech district leadership state of EdTech for 2025. They do this every year, but they also had salaries in there as well, just to give you a baseline. Now, that's important for us as you kind of look at where you are in your career and as well. Another piece that's available to you that I have on this screen is this state and federal cyber for you. Any thoughts on this? I don't want to. We've got a lot of slides to get through, but I want to share so much with you folks today. Stacy, I don't want to miss anything. Is there anything you wanted to share
No, and
about
it
this
just
one?
came out last week is the 2025 state cybersecurity legislation report. So it's a little bit different than the 2024 report, which focuses on policy. But
Yeah.
this is going deep dive into state legislation on cybersecurity. And so I just put the direct link in the chat for folks that want to see that report that just came out last week.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to ask a question, and folks on the call can answer in the chat if they'd like to. I mean, I, how many of you have gone to the CoSN website, checked out and logged in yet into the CoSN network ever? There's an opportunity for you to actually go to the CoSN website, log into the network, and start to look at some of these resources. Have you done that ever? Have you actually said, yeah, Bill, I've gone over to CoSN website and I've checked out some of these. So there's a lot of resources available that are free to download as well. But then behind the scenes, getting into these resources that have you asked you to log in to get to them. If you want to be transparent enough and share a little bit, you're welcome to do that in the chat. But uh, it would be good to take a moment and spend some time at the CoSN site and see what the resources are available for you. Uh,
And I will add, when you look at the CoSN member forum, and particularly the open forum, think like so many of you are on the listserv that ETLA offers for the state. Think of it as a national listserv. So you can go in there and ask questions. It's really interesting. We just set up this week an Ohio specific community. So we're going to keep building out resources in that. And I have it open, I'm happy to share my screen. But
nice.
the open forum is very much tech directors from across the US talking about different situations. So this is the open forum. It looks more like a discussion board than the listserv does, but there's all kinds. Somebody's asking about these TSIP standards in Virginia. Here's a new webinar that's coming up. Most of the CoSN webinars are free for CoSN members. We spotlight members. Sustainability procurement guidelines were just released. Here's another course that they're doing. All of this Delaware, look at that. That's OH on there. Delaware Area Career Center got a privacy recognition on their TLE mini seal. And all of the different committees that you belong to will show up over here on the left as a community that you can go in and talk to. So there's the 2026 Midwest one that I just had set up, and then our Ohio one that we're building out right now. So there'll be specific areas for other groups. But if you're I'm on the EdTech Innovations Committee, so you see that one there as well. So.
That's great. I appreciate you jumping in and sharing it. That's the new version too. It's much nicer, a back end community than what. So if you have an opportunity, please spend time over there and take a look at it. Um, I'm going to continue on making sure my screen is shared. Yes, and
Thanks,
we're
Sean. I
going to talk.
appreciate your comments in the chat too.
All right, let's take a look at it. Just a few more. Again, today is, I know it's informational, but I know I feel like I appreciate those of you who are sharing in the chat and giving us some thoughts and feedback. But I wanted to make sure you're aware of what's really available to you. Just thinking about things we do all the time as EdTech leaders, this budgeting, TCO, um, VOI, value of the instruction or value of the investment, if I should say, is you're noticing they have opportunities like these tools. Stacy, I know that you're intimately involved. Is there anything new or changing in this area with all of this?
The K-12 CVAT may be changing in the very, very
Mhm.
near future. So expect some changes coming there. Uh, but other than that, the K-12 CVAT is an amazing tool to give your vendors to have them do a risk assessment before you even buy. And unfortunately, a lot of districts don't use it. And what we found working together on our data privacy work here in Ohio is we formed a really tight coalition with all of our member districts and our partner tech, the education cooperative. And so now we have power because we're a big block instead of just Medina City Schools or just Sycamore Community Schools, which is where Bill was at before he retired. And so maybe if we form a block like that, we can get some of these tools from our vendors, but it's hard when you're doing it on your own.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to lean into the K-12 CVAT just a little bit because some of you on the call may like, what is that? What is that? And it is just that it's on the site. And higher ed have had this for a while, by the way. Higher ed's had this in place. If you've ever done any work with higher ed as a vendor, they have their own. They have a higher ed one. And I think that's kind of where the idea actually spawned from when CoSN leaned into this and built this. So that is like Stacy shared, it's a risk assessment for vendors. And I see there might be a question in the chat or such, or you put that in the chat. Thank
Yep,
you,
I put the link
Stacy.
in there.
Yep, great. It's a great opportunity if you're not aware of those tools that are available for you. So I'm just going to kind of run down EdTech topics. This is what's happening in the forum. I know you just showed it, Stacy, but I wanted to kind of just give all these kind of things that are happening with EdTech topics, knowing our limited time. And I want to kind of pause on a couple of these. You can see them. I don't have to read them. I want to take a minute and talk a little bit about the Empowered Superintendent series as well and what that means. And so I'm going to come back. Sorry, I clicked that inadvertently, but I want to talk about this. The title sometimes is a little misleading. And I have used the Empowered Superintendent tools to help my superintendent know how to evaluate me as well. Um, Stacy, any thoughts on the Empowered Superintendent piece? And I don't know if anyone on the call has used these tools, but they're important. The
It's
Empowered
actually the
Superintendent.
first tool that got me into CoSN because I had to help somebody hire a CTO. And this is a partnership that CoSN does with AASA. So it's endorsed by both organizations. And it literally is what it takes and how to be and how to evaluate a CTO for superintendents. So, not to insult any superintendents, but just think about CTO for dummies is kind of like the nice way to. I guess it's not nice if you think I'm not trying to call superintendents dummies, but there's a hey, you need to hire a new CTO. Here's the things you want to ask. Here's some job questions. Here, they're based on the framework of essential skills. It is a complete toolkit on how to be a CTO and how to evaluate CTOs. They also have monthly webinars, PD opportunities, a whole bunch of one pagers for a CTO on accessibility, on cloud computing. How many of you had to try to explain, all of this stuff to your superintendent? There's already a resource here in a one pager that you can just use and have talking points and leave them with something. So it's designed to foster those conversations, and it's all completely free. It's
Yeah,
actually free whether you're a CoSN member or not. So.
yeah, it is one of the essential ones that I would highly recommend if you're to say where to start. If you take a look at your evaluation tool, all of you on the call, and look at what's the evaluation tool that I have, and if you're like, this doesn't even really line up, it was built 20 years ago and we're still using this, the Empower Superintendent could be an opportunity for you to sit down with your supervisor and say, hey, can we build an evaluation tool that is more in line with what I do every day? And you could use the Empower Superintendent evaluation tools and blend that into how you want to have your tool look like. So great resource. You're right, Stacy. I believe that's a free one, whether you're you're a member or not, and it's available for you. And that's great conversations to start where you're showing a tool that was built by leaders that you don't have to say, hey, this is something I came up with, but empower your superintendent with that. One last item on the empower superintendent piece is that every month, CoSN sends a letter, an email newsletter style to BASA. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with this at all, but it happens behind the scenes. BASA is getting CoSN communications monthly. As you know, BASA is the Buckeye Association of Superintendent Administration. I don't know if I said that correctly, but I think you all know it's superintendent administrators in Ohio. And they're communicating with them about opportunities to come to webinars, come to understanding of more of the work we're doing as Learn 21 and all the Ohio work. So um, we're working on those inroads, and so is Costa National to connect our superintendents to the work we're doing. All right, how we doing here? We're doing not too bad on time. I'm going to just talk about a few other things that I think are pretty cool. I know you've been involved in this, Stacy, with the Driving K-12 Innovation report. I believe you did. If I'm thinking correctly, I think you did a session on this at one point in the past.
Yeah, I've done a couple of sessions on it. So
Yeah.
it's in process right now. You can sign up for this every year, late spring, early summer. It's separate from the committees. It's a really neat opportunity. There's usually about 100 people on the advisory board, and we have long conversations all fall about what are the top 3 hurdles, enablers, and tech accelerators impacting education today. And then CoSN releases a report on that. But I've met some of the coolest people, and people that I call friends today that I met early on doing this report. So it's also a really nice communication tool. Again, this is freely available for anybody, whether you're a CoSN member or not, to talk to your superintendents, your boards, your community, like 2024 hurdles, attracting and retaining educators and IT professionals. If you're fighting with that, like there's resources in here and things that you can do to help with that. So it's really a nice advocacy tool to say we're not the only ones, and here's things that other people are doing to solve these problems.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. And what I also wanted to say about this is, as you were talking, if you look at this, this could help you with some of your planning when you're sitting down and doing budget. You're thinking about where we need to be, where are our gaps. You can kind of look at where are we? Are we way behind, and how are we going to get there? But they're trying to give people, I think, in this report a vision of what's coming down and what you need to start being thinking about in the next 5 years as it comes this way. So thanks, Stacy, for putting those in there in the chat. A couple of other items, and I haven't spent as much time in this area. I'm just be very transparent, Stacy. So if you may want to kind of lead and talk a little bit about this, as we're fortunate to have you as the chair at CoSN, you know all the behind the, but I've not had enough time to spend with the artificial intelligence resources. I've had my head down in student data privacy, I feel like. But what is this one? I haven't looked at this enough much.
Yeah, so our AI committee is new. It was founded in 2024. AI used to be a part of the Emerging Technologies Committee, and it was such a big topic, we spun it off into its own committee. The couple of things that I really think I would look at if I were here is that generative AI readiness checklist and the maturity tool. This is looking at systems and operations to be ready to integrate AI effectively across both classrooms and business operations in a district. It's not anything, it's not buy this tool, get this app, do this thing. It's about the cybersecurity, the data privacy, the infrastructure, all of those things that need to be in place. And so it's a really good, mature way to look at AI integration. If you're already using AI, which I know a lot of folks are, still going back and saying where are our gaps based on this maturity model and this readiness checklist is a really good thing. And it's a conversation that you have with your cabinet, your leadership team at your district. It's not something that you should be expected to do on your own as a tech director or CTO.
That's a great point. You think about all of our roles and sitting at cabinet or having those conversations, and AI is happening in your district and you're trying to manage it all. sounds like these are great tools to really help you facilitate that work and have those conversations, which is typical of what CoSN does. They tackle a, a, a challenging topic and then start to build some tools for folks to use so they don't have to come and do this all by themselves. And really, it's a team approach. And then I haven't gotten into the EdTech debate, but I've read a little bit about this. This is completely pretty much the newest for me. I just have not spent any time over here looking at this one, this member brief.
Yeah, so I was helped a lot with the authoring of this with a couple of CTOs from across the US, including Jen Fry here in Delaware in Ohio. Um, and it's really about the call for balance in the screen time debate. So it can't be all no screens, it can't be, all screens all the time. So it's got some really good talking points in here. It was done in 2024. I will tell you, coming out in the next couple of days is the 2025 Blaschke report, which is called Screens in Balance, Education, Technology, and Community Conversations. Again, a completely free report, whether you're a CoSN member or not. I just had the opportunity on Tuesday to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and give a final few edits. It's 42 pages with a toolkit for parents, teachers, community members about screens and fostering better conversations about screen time in schools. So I know in Ohio you have to have a cell phone policy, but this goes beyond that. And so both this call for balance, the call for balance is a member only brief. So you do have to be a CoSN member to download that. The Blaschke report, when it comes out in the next few days, is going to be a publicly available report.
Yeah. We all have folks, parents and community members that will ask questions about this. And, it sounds like these reports, Stacy, are very helpful on educating those of us who may need to dive in deeper and take a look at this and understand it and then give good advice.
Yeah. And I will give one of our own team members a shout out, Danny Timmets. One of the tools in the CoSN Screen Time Toolkit is the Screen Time Continuum, and it is based off of infographic that Danny did for us over the summer. And so CoSN took that and adopted it and added a little bit of depth and spin onto it. So that's also out there. So kudos to Danny and her work for being included in that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. All right. We're getting we have just a couple more slides. I want to open up for anybody. We just want to also bring this slide to you of all the things that we're doing at EdTech Leaders Alliance. Don't have to really dive into every single one of these. Are there anything that you wanted to kind of maybe share out about specifically, Stacy, and the work we're doing at ETLA?
I just think I want you to see all of the things that we do. So we are a partner with TCEA and FETC. If you are going to the FETC conference, you get a discount because you're an ETLA member. We also have a room block that's available. We have lots of opportunities through ISTE with our AIPD. We're also doing professional development through ISTE on the new ISTE standards, which were adopted by the state of Ohio. All of that is on our webpage. Bill and Amy do such an amazing work with our SDPC work. Many of you probably don't even know in July, the entire state of Colorado signed on as ETLA members so that we can do the data privacy work for the state of Colorado because they were so impressed with what we were doing. So now we do all the data privacy work for the entire state of Colorado too. And then CETA is the State EdTech Directors Association. They have a lot of reports. They just created a report on state EdTech trends that we'll be sharing out with our members. And then our advocacy team runs our conference, the listserv, our newsletters. We're here for you. I will tell you, our conference is probably my favorite conference all year long, and I go to probably 30 or 40 of them. It's just like, it feels like going home. It feels like a reunion, and it's at a great facility. So, but if you have questions about any of those, let us know. The infographic really represents that EdTech Leaders Alliance is powered by Learn 21. And so we're here to support all your needs.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I know we've got a few minutes left. I know we tried to run as much through all of this. There's so much, and we just scratched the surface, Stacy. And you're always telling me behind the things, new things that are coming up from CoSN National as well. So we are very fortunate in Ohio. We kind of know things that are happening, and we're helping steer some of those. So thoughts or questions from anyone on the call this afternoon, or clarity on one of the opportunities that are available to you, or maybe even a comment. Okay. I want to say thank you to Stacy for spending this time. I know you do an enormous amount of work with CoSN National. Folks on the call, you don't even want to see Stacy's calendar and where she's going all over the country. Yet she's working also for us. We feel as though this is a really big value to bring back to Ohio. The work is so important. And I think it goes back to your first comment when you leaned in, Stacy, about it's finding your people. And it is about that, finding your people and collaborating with those who are just like you and doing the work just like you and helping each other. So thank you, Stacy, for the work you've been doing. I also want to shout out, as Stacy just talked about, if you haven't, we'll see you at the conference, hopefully. If you haven't registered for the conference, hopefully you will do so in October 19th through the 21st. We've got some pretty cool stuff going on and fun
Man,
things. Isn't that right?
we have giant Pac-Man, like four, you can play on a giant screen against your friends, talk about finding my people. We have Ryan Collins from Kenton City Schools is running a karaoke night on Sunday night. We have Dale Mowbray, who is in Mason City Schools, is going to be our DJ on Monday night, and free Top Golf on Sunday. So, and, oh, and by the way, there's a lot of educational sessions too, but
Yes, there is. There's a lot of, we need to enjoy a little bit as well. So we try to do that, and those are all packed in there. So thank you for attending this afternoon, taking some time out of your day just to listen to us share a little bit about what the membership opportunities are available to you. We really appreciate your attendance here. We have recorded this. I'll give a last pause here. If there are any last questions before that someone wants to put in the chat or have a question that you'd like to come off mic. All right. On behalf of Stacy and myself, we're thankful for you attending and hope to see you in October. It'll be a fun time. So enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm going to stop sharing and stop the recording, and we will hang out for a few minutes if you need us to do so and ask any questions as well.